Here we go, it's the Klopp podcast.
What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to another Klopp podcast. I'm joined by Tim, as usual, but we've also got another special guest. It's Marcus Banks from the who's a sports social media editor for the Echo. How are you doing, Marcus? You all right, lad?
Not bad after a whirlwind 2 days, but hopefully, today and yesterday is the start of brighter things.
It's got to be, hasn't it? It's really got to be. Like last night where we got that fucking shitty statement, and then this morning where we got the heartfelt apology, and it's like, well, yeah, he's saying all the right things, but Marcus, what did you make of it this morning when you woke up and you saw that apology? Were you what side of the fence were you on after that? Did you feel a bit more sympathetic, or were you just thinking it's another load of shit as usual?
I mean, it's a difficult one. I think it's hindsight's obviously great, but if you think if there wasn't such backlash, that there wasn't an apology in the initial statement, and the initial statement wasn't received so badly, would he have done it? That's another question. But I think one thing you've got to give credit is that he's probably the only owner at the minute to actually like come out publicly. I know a few people have done. Joe Glaze has sent an open letter to United fans. Ferran Soriano has sent an email to City fans, but at least he's came out, faced the camera and said that even if he probably is reading off a screen. But I think it's good that he has, again, learned the lesson, but it's too many times at FSG that they've learned the lesson, and how many times can you continue to say sorry? And there was just one line in his thing that stuck with me, and it was something like this project was always doomed to fail without the support of the fans. Yet FSG did not consult the fans on this at all, and if they had done, they could have saved themselves face. They could have came out of this looking like heroes in a way. If they were the one club out of the big six to say, no, the only club to consult the fans, then people would have been applauding FSG. But the fact he comes out and says the project was doomed to fail without the support of the fans, when not asking for the support of the fans in the first place, and probably only get ditching the project because fans were against it. Otherwise, he definitely would have went through with it. So it's just a bit saving face. I wouldn't read too much into the way of apology, rather than if I don't think it was too genuine. I'll say that.
Yeah, and Tim, it is mad, isn't it? Because if you think like 10 months ago, we lifted the Premier League trophy. FSG had probably the most credit in the bank in terms of trust from supporters that they've ever had at that stage of the tenure, like 11 years now they've been here. I don't understand why they've thought. I mean, if they just came in this year and they made this mistake, we'd be like, right, this is teething problems. They've not understood what Liverpool's about, what we stand for. But it's 11 years now, and they've made a few mistakes in the past, and they've had to renege on them. So it's just this again coming up and just showing its ugly head. And them going through with it secretly, and all these secret talks happening, and it comes out in the way it did. It is a bit disappointing, isn't it, when you kind of think Liverpool have higher expectations, and you think Liverpool are better run than these other clubs that were involved, don't you?
Yeah, I'd say so. And, it's you don't only get that feeling from, just the way we act as fans, but the way that FSG have conducted business previously. Obviously, they have made their mistakes in the past, but nothing on obviously this level. And again, they have a tendency to then go back on what they've done, which is a good thing, I guess, in a way. It's not like they stick to their guns and say, listen, F you as fans, I don't care what you're going to say. We don't care if you're not going to fill Anfield as the legacy supporters. So, yeah, and credit to John Henry for stepping in front of the camera. That's not an easy thing to do. So, yeah, well, it is what it is, yeah. But, yeah, it's a tough one, and you can't help but have mixed feelings about it, because you just expect more. And like you said, because they've spent so much time here, and you would have thought that they would have got a feeling for what this club is about, and what the supporters are about, and why this club is so special, even in the level of league and playing in Europe. This club always stands out for how family orientated and how like much of a community Liverpool fans have always been. So to just blatantly ignore that and then come out and as Marcus said, just state that this was always going to be fair without the fans' approvals, it just throws different thoughts into your head. So yeah, just genuinely disappointed. That's the biggest thing I could say about it, to be honest.
Yeah, and Marcus, I think the part of the apology that struck out to you also struck out to me completely. Like, the project put forward was never gonna stand without the support of the fans. And it's like, well, why even think it's a good idea then? It's obviously a backtrack, isn't it? It's oh, we knew that you guys wouldn't be supportive of this, so that's why we pulled out. When it's in fact that you've been caught with the gun in your hand, and now you want to backtrack because everyone else is.
That's the one thing. Obviously, when the news is breaking, and then there's obviously a few people saying, "Oh, it was posturing," and which is what it looked like for a good while. Obviously, there's been murmurings for the last year or so, and ahead of the UEFA vote, it did look like a bit of posturing. And then as soon as like the binding contracts were announced, the website was launched, like it was a full blown thing, and the fan backlash started. The thing that really I just couldn't wrap my head around is that decision makers at all these clubs have sat down and thought that this was a good idea. But not only you've got, from a business point of view, it probably is, but it's these football clubs aren't businesses that can run in that way. There's too many stakeholders, arguably the biggest which is the fans, and I can't wrap my head around the idea that these people have sat at a boardroom and thought the fans would back this. Like, I don't see how they've came to that conclusion and thought, yeah, let's run with it. Like, surely someone must have been expecting this level of backlash and this level of just unapproval from not even just Liverpool fans up and down the country. I still haven't spoken to one person who thinks it's a good idea. So I just don't understand how they've came to the conclusion. Yeah, you can say that they are led by greed and they've saw the money, but that's only possible with the fans. So if you can't get the fans on side, then why go ahead with it? Like, did they think they were going to get away with it? Because if they are, then I don't even know. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it, Tim? Because like Marcus just like hit the nail on the head there. It was never gonna, like, it was just a no starter from the start. So the fact that they did this, but I want to ask you, where do you think we go from here? I mean, because we could dissect that statement and that apology for the rest of the night. But what are your thoughts on going forward with FSG? Do you think it is salvageable, or do you think that it's gone too far now with too many mistakes and apologies are kind of meaningless because they've made too many mistakes in the past?
Well, listen, at the end of the day, I think this is more than salvageable. This isn't, we're not looking at owners here who are violating human rights or have a history of proven racism or anything like that. We're talking about owners who have made business mistakes. So it's not like as much as we will see it as them taken away from us as the fans doing this and not consulting us is a big mistake, But there Sky and organizations like that have been doing that for years, but I don't see fans rising up and talking about that as much. And I think that when you look at FSG as an owner group, one, we have been successful under them, and two, they've laid out a plan. And if you look in the next 5-8 years of Liverpool Football Club, you would imagine under FSG that we're going to remain being successful and doing it in a business manner that's actually going to be effective, rather than turning into Man City and spending 500 million every transfer window. Which, as Liverpool fans, I haven't spoken to anyone who's a legitimate football fan and Liverpool fan who knows anything about football that wants Liverpool to turn into that kind of a club, because that kind of a club doesn't have any soul. That kind of a club will, throw its players out as soon as they're no good and move on and constantly be buying replacements, and you'll never ever feel an attachment to the players because outside of Kun Aguero and fast coming Kevin De Bruyne, that kind of side doesn't really have any club legends the way that we look at Steven Gerrard and Jamie Carragher and King Kenny and all that kind of stuff. So in terms of the way they've organised business previously, I think they have done it in a way that does represent Liverpool well. They've just made too many mistakes that have countered that. So you're going to make mistakes in business. These guys, at the end of the day, whether they're billionaires for a reason. They've made their money doing exactly that. They see an opportunity to make more money, and they're going to make more money. So, yeah, I'm pissed off. It goes completely against everything that you want in football. But at the same time, am I surprised? Not really. You know, it's for me, this was more of a power play on UEFA. I think the owners talking about how these guys sat at a boardroom and kind of discussed this and thought the fans would back it. I think that they would probably discuss the potential of 50-50, some fans liking it and others not, and they probably didn't expect this level of backlash. But all of a sudden it's come out that UEFA's got 4 billion quid that they've been hiding out of nowhere. So for me, this is potentially, and obviously not only that, they're now introducing this rule in 24-25 where the two biggest clubs who miss out on Champions League spaces in the domestic leagues are going to get into the Champions League anyway. So what they've done is essentially probably understood that UEFA, this is the only angle I can see that makes sense for me, is if I'm sitting at a table with the other owners. We know UEFA have 4 billion that they're not sharing with the clubs. We know that they're going to essentially create a Super League anyway. So why wouldn't we do that ourselves and actually be able to access that kind of money to be able to better our teams? And yes, they've gone about it in completely the wrong way, but that is the only angle where I can actually rationalize in my head what's happened over the last 2 days. So it's a madly confusing situation, and there's so many stories that are conflicting that are out at the moment, and so many angles that you can take on this that are gonna give you different thoughts. It's just a matter of what you read in a row. You could read an article that's be like, oh, this makes sense, and then an article that's like, well, this is absolutely disgraceful. So
yeah, I agree, mate. And I want to touch on one of the comments here from Longman. We are better run. They messed up big time, but they've done more good than bad in their tenure. And then Dan goes on to say FSG going, we have just another Rich Belland as the owner who doesn't care about us at all. We need more saying what goes on inside the club and the game, at least a similar policy to in Germany. I mean, that's, Marcus, what do you make about all this? I mean, FSG, there's always been a load of people saying FSG out, even when we were winning Champions League titles, even when we were in Premier League titles, and they were just waiting for another fuck up to happen, and they've realised that in the worst possible way to make another mistake. But what are your thoughts going forward on FSG and kind of what they can change to kind of remedy this if it's possible?
Yeah, like as Tim said, it's just such a mad situation. As we all know, we've been here before with FSG, and it's another mistake. But it's another mistake that goes against the morals of the club, which shows, like Tim said, that they are businessmen. They're not like it's not a big surprise to see them making these decisions. So it's just such a strange one. And Dan hit the nail on the head. Like, who's going to come in and buy Liverpool? What do we value that now? Over £2 billion. As if anyone's going to buy. I don't even know at this time what the current biggest football club purchase in the world is, because that surely anything around those figures would break that record too. So you've got to think, like, someone's got to come in and buy us if they are to be taken out. And I mean, the 50-50 model is what everyone should be pushing for now, as the 50+1 German model. I don't think that model specifically would probably work, but something needs to be done to give supporters more control of their own club and guide the club in these decisions, because, as I said before, it's going against the morals of what everything Liverpool stands for. I think Gary Neville said it perfectly. Like, Liverpool and football as a whole is a working class game, and these decisions are just going against what the people who've built the game, Matt Busby, Bill Shankly, all people like that who built the game into what it is today, and they're taking advantage of it. And the other, as Tim said again, but it's the lesser of two evils. Sky are just as bad as UEFA. UEFA are just as bad as FIFA. It's all greed, and there's no way that UEFA care about supporters either. They just don't want their big clubs to be leaving their competition. They don't want to lose their TV deals because all the big clubs are going to play somewhere else. They don't care about competition or the fans or anything like that. Just look, a few people have said that on Twitter and social media. Look at the allocations for Champions League finals. How many tickets go to fans? Is it 15%? The rest goes to prime ministers, sponsors. It's a joke, and UEFA is just as big as a joke as they are, as this whole Super League decision is, as bad as it is. But it's the lesser of two evils, and as you say, UEFA have got no backbone. Sefferin's already backtracking on this. Oh, we're going to ban everyone, or impose all these sanctions. He basically just said, oh, you've made a mistake, but you can come crawling back scot-free. So, I mean, I think Joe Glazer's open letter, I read that before, and that obviously this is not going away. In his statement, he said they're still unhappy with the way UEFA and the football pyramids run. So if UEFA just open them back in with open arms, it's going to happen again in the future. There's no way that these clubs aren't going to try and get power again. But I think for FSG, if they hadn't have done and made the mistakes they had in the past, then you could maybe look past it. But I mean, it's such a strange one. But personally, for me, I think it's time to go for them. Like they've had but then it comes back to who's going to buy. But I think if there is an owner group that would work with a 51 plus German model, then FSG could be that owner group. To be fair, they just need to have, the clearly savvy businessmen with the whole Red Bear deal and as Tim said, the way they've run the club sustainably and set us up for a future. But they just need a bit. It's like they just need a bit of guidance on what decisions morally and in the ethics and ethos of this club to go from there, really. So yeah, it's a difficult one, and it's probably going to take a couple of weeks to digest and see where we go from here.
Yeah, couldn't agree more, mate. But we've got another little special guest. He's flew all the way from sunny California. I'm messing. It's only Jay. Don't worry.
You're such a bit dick. All right, mate. You all right? How's it going? You all right?
Hey Jay, I took your job, yeah.
Take it, mate. Fucking take the fucking thing. After this week, I'm fucking football. I can fuck off after this week. Carry on. I'm not interrupting your flow. Carry on.
No, we're coming to you with this one. It's Luke from the 1892 Reds podcast. Hey lads, I backed FSG in the summer to get it right with transfers, everything around the club, and after this, they now need to go. I mean, Jamie and you went on their pod, didn't we? And we had quite a good discussion about FSG. This was before all this shit kicked off, obviously.
Yeah.
And we were all trying to be as I don't know what the word is, professionally trying to look at it like they're
balanced.
Trying to be balanced. Like they've done certain things, and I think we always kept coming back to them. Or they've delivered this training venue. They've extended Anfield. They've done this. They've done that. But this one's just a very bitter pill to swallow, isn't it? What have you made about all this? Obviously the statement, and then obviously the apology this morning.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind, as you said earlier on the pod. I think, like you said with the FSG thing, you try and be balanced in what your opinion of them. I think what Luke's saying there is obviously back them to get the transfers right in the summer. I think they spent money when it went on for a long time. Was like they're not spending a penny, and they come out with Thiago and Jota, and everyone was happy for a good couple of months until the whole fucking January thing kicked off again. So it's going to keep happening, isn't it, really? And I think this is a big eye-opener for everybody. I'm shocked, I really am, that they've done something this big. I mean, like you said before on the pod, the furlough thing, the £77 ticket, the trademark on the Liverpool was just all a load of bollocks. But I looked at it as small mistakes because looking at Americans coming to a different country, and the way we do things was everything's bigger in America. They can get away with that bullshit in America with baseball and all that sort of stuff. They can't do that here. So I look at that as a bit of a learning curve for them. So it was like little mistakes like that. You can sort of like, all right, fine, crack on. And then the whole thing in the back of your mind, 10 years, and they've took us from the brink of administration to where we are today, $1 billion, £1 billion, £1 billion football club, and we've won the Premier League and the Champions League, and it's been all rosy, but this is just fucking ages. And I just think, as like Marcus said, there's no coming back from it. There is no coming back from this now. But it's going to be a very interesting summer because Twitter's gone bananas today saying, buy Mbappe and Haaland and Karate and I'll fucking forgive you. Well, you're asking for... You're complaining about money and they don't have any. Then they try and get more money in this really backhanded, horrible way, and now it's gone the other way again. They'll never win FSG now, and they'll never win. They need to go now, and there's no way they can set foot in Anfield again after this. It's shocking. Yeah,
and Jay, like you say, if they do go and spend the fucking fortune in the summer, we're all going to be thinking, but they're only doing that because they fucked up. We're not going to be thinking, they're doing this with the best intentions at heart. Now they're doing it to try and win our support and our money back, like us as fans. Like they want to win us over, and that's what they're going to try to do if they stick around. But
yeah, because then they'll sorry mate, you're absolutely spot on, and because everyone will turn around and say, well, where was that money in the summer? Where was the money in January? So you can put your hand in your pocket. It is a definite eye opener for me, and I've got to eat a slice of humble pie, me, because I've always been FSG in because of what they've done and what we've all been through. I mean, as a generation, we've all said it, haven't we? Because I think the older you are, you have a different perspective on it, and that's no disrespect to people who are young and stuff. It's just they weren't old enough to experience what we went through since 1990, and that's against no slight. They can read on it, of course they can, and they're still part of the club. Don't get me wrong; they still have that pain, but it's living through it on the day to day of watching your football club week in, week out under the Roy Hodgson era, which is so horrible. And I just I'd never want to go back to it. So it's like, it's better the devil, you know. That's what, like Marcus says, who'd you get instead? And that's what worries me. And it is always better the devil, you know, sometimes. But anyway, yeah, like I said, mate, the comments, crack on.
No, I mean, in terms of FSG in or FSG out, I think I've always just been like, FSG, do whatever the fuck you want as long as we're winning trophies and you're not involved. I think that's all you want, isn't it? You want someone who's going to put their hand in the pocket, but they're also just going to kind of be there to support us when we need them and not do fucking stunts like this. I think that's why it hurts more, I think, because we expected a better level from them. But Luke's came in again. Jay asking about your shirt. See your stuff was Sporting Rome before they beat United in Europe.
Pure coincidence. That was a fucking pure coincidence, that, mate. Pure coincidence.
People
but yeah,
also,
I'll take it.
People also, just another thing when I was listening to Jay then, like you mentioned, like the pain of the Roy Hodgson era, and I was still quite young, but obviously I do remember it. But it's obviously they haven't consulted the fans, but they haven't consulted the players. The players didn't want to play in it. And the big one for me, one of the main arguments for supporting FSG, and you can argue against it slightly, but we have been successful under their leadership. But how much is that is down to FSG, or how much is that down to Jurgen Klopp? And the fact that they'd made this decision, which they know that Liverpool's best manager, a man who's given us in recent years as well so many memories. We've won the pinnacle, the Premier League, a trophy that I genuinely didn't think that I'd be able to watch us win after 2014. Like I thought, would I ever see us win the Premier League and Istanbul as well? I was still quite young, and obviously seeing Madrid was just. Today I was watching videos of Jamie Webster and not Madrid Plaza, and Jurgen Klopp is the man who's delivered all of those memories. And yeah, FSG have backed him, but Klopp has been the best thing that's happened to this club in my memory. And to make this decision to go against everything he stands for, and FSG knew this because he gave that interview in 2019 where he said that he wouldn't want to be a part of the Super League, and they've not took that into consideration. They've not appreciated the manager, the God's gift that we've got at our club. They've literally just shown no regard for him. They've not stuck with him. They can back him all they want in the transfer market, but their decision to enter that league goes directly against everything he stands for. And for that is another reason why I just, like Jay said, there's no way back. Because if Klopp had walked because of their decision, then honest to God, Anfield would have been burnt down. Because Klopp is, and Liverpool have always got affinity to the managers, and rightly so. Like look at the Klopp banners on the Klopp. Klopp is loved, and so he should be. And a decision that would push him out of our club, when they would genuinely burn Anfield down, because it goes against everything he stands for, and they knew that, which is what doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, Marcus, the 2019, the win in Madrid, and then the following parade, the owners obviously saw that and realised what a big club that we are, how big the fans are in connection with the club, and then they want to go and enter the league where the Champions League isn't a thing anymore, and they want us to have 6 Super Leagues instead of 6 Champions Leagues. It's like, have you not watched anything in the past 11 years, or at least in the past 2 years, where we've won? Just makes
the trophy worthless, and the Premier League, and it had connotations for the Leeds game too. Because I mean, obviously, the 2 drop points now looks a little bit worse, because at the time you were thinking, oh, what's the point anyway? We don't need to get into the top 4 because we're gonna. There's no competition anyway, so we're gonna be there just based on the fact that we have history, which is just a joke in itself. And then you also think, well, what was that Champions League win for? What was I crying out in a bar in Madrid for? Crying into my dad because Enrique had just stuck one past Spurs. That is essentially just meaningless.
Yeah, fucking hell. That is, yeah. But a good point, mate. Tim, Dan's just put a little comment here about people that moaning about transfers. He's put, funny how fans that cry ass about transfers all the time clearly don't realise that actually part of the problem, it's all agreed. One big money superstar signings equals Super League. I think that's it, like, and it's like what we've been saying, like about if you want to go and sign Mbappe and Haaland and whatever else, and then obviously he was talking about 16 to 25-year-olds or whatever else shit he was saying. That's what they were doing it for. It's just like what? It's like it's a different world, isn't it? Like that they seem to be living it.
Well, this is exactly it. I mean, this is why when they say like, oh, you know, there's a bunch of 16 to 25 or 14 to 25-year-olds wanted this and all this kind of stuff. These are the kind of people that they'd clearly be listening to. The people whose football knowledge is based off of FIFA. You know, it's mental to think that is the way that football is trying to be pushed. You know, that people going on Twitter and talking about how, you know, if Liverpool don't sign Mbappe and Haaland, then you should leave. And, you know, you guys made a money grab. But at the same time, if you now don't spend 350 million this summer, you're a disgrace. So it just doesn't make any sense to me, because this is the unfortunate problem with Twitter, is that it opens up the world to the reality of people actually wanting stuff like that. And unfortunately, the generation coming after us are like that because they got into FIFA before they started watching football properly. So it's all a culmination of a lot of things that have been happening over a few years, and again, at this point, it just doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, totally agree, mate. But we've got Dave in here saying hi, Legacy fans. I think Dave's. Have you changed your channel, Dave, to Dave's LFC Legacy fans now? So I'm sure you said something about that yesterday.
Another ridiculous. Like there's so many points that you can like think about, but
yeah. Jay, before we'll get on to 26 minutes now, so let's try and wrap it up a little bit. But what are I haven't asked you this one yet. So what are your thoughts on FSG going forward? I mean, I know you said there's no coming back for them now, but how would you go about doing that? What would be your play? I mean, I know you're not. I mean, you could be a very established businessman. I don't know, but I mean, never got a very good job. But I don't know what you do in your day-to-day life.
If fucking hell, nice one, mate. Shows how well we work together on this, doesn't it? You don't even know what I do for a living.
I know what you do, but I just don't know what your meetings are about, do I? I mean, there's that time.
No, that's true. I know what you mean. But the thing is, I don't see FSG going anytime soon. I really don't. We're not worth, the 200 to 300 million anymore. We're worth a lot more than that. And who's going to come in and buy us? Who's got that kind of money? I really don't think they have. I think FSG, based on Emery's apology, I think they're still in this for the long term. I really do. I mean, they've been here for a decade, so a long term is there anyway. But I don't see them going. I don't see them at Anfield for a long time now. I think that's really, really. I think that's set in stone now. I don't think they'll come back over here for a long time now. But I don't see them going anywhere. I think what Marcus said and Tim said it earlier about the summer. That's the most important thing. If they don't get this summer in terms of showing off with a load of money, because they can't win in this situation. They give a load of money for transfers. We get all these incredible players. They're just going to get abuse for it, saying, where was this? Whenever. It depends on your point of view on the transfer windows anyway. Because we have people going about the Sepp Vandenberg transfer window. But we won the league that year. So again, it's sort of, we don't have to go into that. We've been into that loads of times. We've both had abuse for it. But I think if they don't spend, it's just going to get 10 times worse. I do think like what a lot of people are saying is showing their true colours, like what Dugout's just said in the comments there. That's quite eye-opening, because they did, like Mark said, they didn't consult us, and that's really worrying. But this is a massive eye-opener for FSG now, where they know that they've got to tread fucking carefully with our fan base, because any more fuck-ups is just going to be the complete, it's going to be unfathomable if they fuck up like this again. But there's that much of us as a fan base now that want them out. It wouldn't surprise me if, as of today, they're now putting the feelers out to see if someone can actually buy us. But don't expect it to happen before next season starts.
The only thing I'd say on that, I don't know whether Tim's going to say the same thing, but you've got to look at United. They've wanted the Glazer family off for God knows how many years, and their protests have been consistent and shown zero intention of moving or zero intention of changing, and zero intention of as joining yesterday, and even their statement shows that they're in the long haul too, because United, another club that are going to be too expensive to buy, like we are now. And at the end of the day, these American owners have got long-term thoughts, and let's have it right, they're looking still at the NFL, they're looking at that salary cap market, and they're definitely, this will not be the end of the Super League or their plans to move European football towards that American model. Like, and what can fans do? If there's going to be a conservative effort with the backing of the government, the backing of probably the players, managers, to get more fan ownership in, that's the only way that FSG are going to reduce their standing, because protest can do, I mean, everyone should protest, they should, but you've just got to look at United as the prime example of, they've protested for years. They've had Glazer out banners, the stadium, Glazer out. They've got fans going in Newton Heath colours, wearing yellow and green to games, because they refuse to wear Manchester United red because it's associated to the Glazers, and they just don't care.
Go on, Tim.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Well, yeah, I was going to say the other example is the other big club in England is Arsenal. You know, how many years has the Kroenke out been a thing? You know, these American owners play hardball. They don't really give a fuck. So, listen, we could complain, we could riot outside of Anfield. I just don't see it making a difference. Yeah,
Does anybody actually think that they're going to go before next season?
No, nope. Not a chance. Not a chance. And the matter of fact is, I don't see anyone coming in, and not only buying the club, but then coming in with a better record in terms of, background, or, that aren't going to look at those business decisions when they come onto the table and look at, look, there's £3.5 billion to be made here, and go, no, I'm all right. So at the end of the day, I'd stick with them for the next few years and see if they can make up for this. But at the same time, they're going to have to work their asses off to gain the respect of this club and its fans back.
Yeah, that's a really good point, that, Tim, is the respect side of things, isn't it? That's if you've not got anything in life, you've not got respect for other people, then you're not going to get anywhere. And they've not had respect for us. And that apology, when I first saw it, I thought, all right, fair play. The statement last night was bullshit, and then he's come out on camera today. But he's probably not wrote that. He's been told by a fucking publicist to do that, because I've never seen him make a statement like that before when it's ever been positive or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? The only time I've ever seen him make proper statements was after Kiev. I've never known him to do anything. Even when we celebrated titles, I've never known him to come out publicly that way and give a message to the fans. It's all a lot of bollocks. And they were in this for the book. Of course they were. Why wouldn't you be? Because Liverpool were a really bad valuation 10 years ago, and he knew damn well that he could take us a lot higher. We didn't expect it to be this. We knew we'd get there, didn't we? Under the right management and stuff. And like Marcus says, it's Jurgen Klopp that's done this. I don't think FSG do this with any other manager. Absolutely not.
The one thing I would add to that is, I don't think that Liverpool now needs to become one of these clubs where the focus of every game, the focus of every post-game show needs to be, when are FSG leaving, FSG out. I think that we still have a team, right, that is not only respectable and full of players that represent this club to the fullest and with an unbelievable amount of pride, but a manager that does so as well, and they represent Liverpool absolutely fantastically. We haven't seen a team this good in years. So the one thing I would say to fans who are listening to this is, don't be so consumed by this FSG out thing. At the end of the day, we've seen with the American owners, as me and Marcus highlighted, that it's what we say isn't going to make a massive difference. So back the team, back the manager, and just try and ignore that situation until it resolves itself, because at the end of the day, if we are going to be able to have a say in it, it's going to happen over the next year or so, and if it doesn't, it's not going to happen. So we just need to move on and push past it and actually support the people who are genuinely representing the club on the field.
Yeah, and if you're going to back anything, you need to back the reform of not just English football, but I mean, Neville put it perfectly. The whole pyramid system. You've got clubs going bust. You've got teams struggling because of COVID and elsewhere, and you've got the biggest clubs in the country like United and Liverpool should be examples to the rest of the league, and there needs to be money trickling down. There needs to be fair competition, and everyone needs to, in a time of unprecedented times, there needs to be that together attitude. And if they are gonna, like Tim said, I don't think protests are gonna do much. FSG aren't going anywhere. But if you need to turn that energy into reform of the English game and bring back power to the fans. We've seen what in 2 days what the power fans can have. So there's no reason why the right protest can't work. But I think it's just useless directing that energy towards getting an owner group out, because as Tim said earlier on, who would buy it, and what businessman is going to come in with a plus at least £1 billion to buy Liverpool at the very, very least? And what businessman, if you've got to think it's got to be profitable. So there's no way, there's no perfect owner out there that is going to buy us, start throwing money out, because at the end of the day, it is a business and it's got to remain profitable. But the fans have got to have more say in that, to stop the club making decisions like that, and to keep our club ethos and what Liverpool stands for as a city and as a club about. So I think the last 2 days has been a positive in that sense, is that it shows how much power the fans can have, and they need to push for this greater need to have power in their own clubs, because that's the only way it'll stop these greedy owners who are only businessmen. And as Tim said, they are only going to think about money unless they've got a big portion of the fans that are stopping them from making those decisions.
Such a good point, that, Mick. What Marcus has just said there in regard to the fans, a couple of the guys in the comments have said it. So Chris Kelly said, they make mistakes in U-turn, but they brought us back to where we wanted to be. Yes, very, very true. They need to have a fan group on the board to present these things happening in the first place. And then Paul Connor said the exact same thing in terms of getting more fan representation. If we can take positives out of this situation and what's gone on now, it's a really eye-opening. I mean, one of my favourite things about this is how united all football fans have been in general. You know, there's not been a hate and abuse for 24 hours, 48 hours on everybody, which I love. You know, there's been no fucking vile shit on Twitter, which is great. And I hope this can be a bit eye-opening for a lot of people in terms of like what we could have lost over this. But I think one of the things I'm most looking forward to is the fact that they might turn around and go, do you know what? Maybe we do need a fan representation on the board. Maybe we do need to start consulting with the fans over every major decision. You know, it's things like that now. I think we could see some good out of that, couldn't we, Mick?
Definitely, it needs to happen. Even if it's not a board member, even if it's just like every decision that is directly going to affect us. Obviously, we're not going to be privy to fucking all like commercial sales and whatever else, but stuff that is directly going to affect us as fans and the way in which we can support our club. It needs to go through a filter, whether that be people on the board, whether that be you reach out to fan websites who've got a huge platform like Anfield Rap or Redmond TV or people like that, who you can kind of go, right, is this going to be a good idea? Let me know. If it's not, fucking tell me. That's all it would have took for all this shit just to not to happen. And it's easy little steps like that, which is why this hurts a bit more, because it's easily fixable. And it's just, we've been dragged through all this. A U-turn's been made after 2 days, and what have we gained from it? Absolutely nothing. We've been dragged through the mud with the rest of the other 5 teams, and there's been no gain at all. But yeah, I agree exactly what the boys have been saying. That needs to happen, and like you said, Jay, it's unified everyone, and that's the one positive we can take from this, that we're all unified against anything like this coming back again. And it needs to be compulsory going forward, and even after FSG, even most all the top clubs in the country need to have a fan representation. On, like we said, on the board, or someone you can consult over big decisions to kind of get away from this type of stuff happening, because it's just not acceptable in this country, and the sooner they realise that, the better. Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's keep on the positive ride. Tim, can you pull a positive out of this situation for me, and what you think is going to happen going forward, please?
Yeah, well, I'd agree with Mick. I think the most major positive out of all of this is the fact that I think that you can probably look at fans who on Sunday probably felt like they had nothing to do with football and no power in the game, and then 2 days later, through a barrage of letting their feelings be known about the situation, have almost grinded an entire, multi-billion-dollar plan to a halt. So for me, it's that, and I think that it would, from here on out, to be honest, judging on how positive fans have been and how positive they can be, and how much power they still have, because they're the key to any form of money at the end of the day. If we don't watch the game, they're not going to make any money from it. So for me, it's the positive now would be taking that power and using it to improve the game, as Marcus was saying, change the way that football is run from the top down, and tackle stuff like racism. If UEFA had reacted this strongly to Glenn Kamara's racial abuse theme, then if they started tackling issues like that with the vigor that they have done the Super League, they wouldn't be a part of the game anymore, and we'd be taking steps in the right direction in terms of football as a whole, as a universal game, in terms of the way it's played, as the way it's viewed. But at the end of the day, racism isn't going to hurt their pocket. So I think now that fans realize that they have this power, it almost a bit of responsibility falls on us to make our kind of make our thoughts known on that kind of an issue more, just more loud, just try and tackle stuff like that on a bigger scale, rather than just a few likes and retweets on, UEFA have done this. So that would be my positive.
I love it, mate. Marcus, obviously, we'll finish with you and your positive note on this, and put a positive spin on it for us, mate. What can we expect going forward now? What would you like to see happen now? What is your ideal roadmap now? What would you like to see in the coming months, or even the next 12 months, mate?
Yeah, so my positive, mine's more of what I hope can be a positive. As Tim rightly said, the fans' power should be the reason why more issues in football are ending. But another thing for FSG going forward is they now have a real opportunity, whether they are going to go or stay. But if they do decide to stay, then they can. I mean, some people might think the relationships are past the point of repair. But if they are going to stay, then they need to try. And doing so, why can't FSG make Liverpool the first club to make that step towards changing the ownership model? Because I know for a fact that would definitely improve relationship with our fans, and it would for Liverpool to come up and set an example, which is what they should be doing anyway, to come up and say, yeah, we got that wrong, this is what we're going to do to rectify that. Whether they will do that, I doubt it, but I'd love to see them do it. If they come out and say, yeah, we like they have done, we made a mistake, but let's change it, let's implement this fan ownership model, whatever it is, let's here's some power over your club back, so you can guide us going forward. And if they did that, as well as backing Klopp, because that is another main thing they need to give Klopp, who, as I said before, is the best thing that's happened to this club. They need to give him what he wants, make sure he has what he needs, but then make those changes to bring the fans back inside. Because if they did do that, and they tackled the issues that fans have been moaning about for years, they've actually actively took on board the opinions of fans who live and breathe this club, then personally, if they did that, then I'd be right now. I wouldn't bat an eyelid if they left, and I'd actively hope that they do. But if they did that, then fair enough. That they can show Liverpool fans that they've truly learned from the mistake. So if that happens, then that's the positive, because even inside of a PR side, it would make so much sense for them to do that, to win back so much support. Even with the business heads on, to do anything like that. Right now, if they are going to stay, the relationship is at an all-time low. So they need something. And I don't think a big transfer is going to do that, because that just smacks of desperation from their point. But let's do something real. Do something that's going to make a difference. Not only just for us too, because if they do it, someone else will do it, and someone else will do it, and there you go. There's your reform. And that can all be led by Liverpool owners who have dragged the club through the mud in the last 2 days.
Spot on, mate. Spot on.
Couldn't have said it better myself, mate. So we'll end it there, because I think that was the perfect way to end the pod. But like to thank everyone in the comments. I'm on my iPad today, so I'm not going to click them all because I'll probably like self-destruct or something. But nice one for Tim for jumping in. Nice one to Jay. A nice one for Marcus from the Echo for jumping in. Nice one for that. We'll be back. I mean, there's a game of footy on Saturday, so we might be back on Friday.
Oh, yeah.
To have a chat. You know that thing where you kick a ball into the back of the net and that, and you celebrate. We might be talking about that this Friday, but yeah, we'll be back then for a little preview, and then we'll be back on Saturday for the team news and match review. So we'll see you all in a bit.